Joe Fagali, Akuya Abu, and Michael Mocha. So, first let's go through a demo of the app. Right now we see the login page. You type in your username and your password, and then click Login. This brings you to the first page, which is a trip's home page. Here you can see all the trips that you have scheduled and are a part of. Right now you see a spring break vacation, graduation trip, and church trip, which are preloaded trips that you are already a part of. To add a new trip, simply press the Add button in the top right corner. This will allow you to make a new trip and to list a couple of the details of the trip. For instance, let's put in a couple of things. Here you see your trip added to the bottom of your menu. If you would like to delete a specific trip, all you have to do is slide to the right, and then you can delete it. So first, let's explore the tools that you have in connection with a trip. Simply click the picture of the trip in order to enter it. Here you see a brief description of the trip, for instance spring break vacation, the destination, and the different dates. Below that, you see a panel of different tools that you can use to assess your trip with. First, let's check out the flights. So, via the Flights button, you can see and plan different itineraries for different flights that you want for the trip. The flights are organized here on the main page by how many people have liked them. If you see these three buttons, these indicate the different preferences the group members have given to the itinerary. For instance, for the first one, 3 people have said that they prefer it, 0 say that it's not great but they can do it, and 2 people say that they wouldn't like it. If you click on a specific flight itinerary, you get to actually leave your preferences for it. For instance, I can mark it as not great, and you see that the counter for not great has increased to 1. If I want to delete my itinerary, I will simply click this button. If I want to book it, I am booking it for the entire group, so I would click this button right here. You can see that when I click the button to book the itinerary now has a check mark instead of the arrow and is green at the top. I can simply unbook it by going back into the menu and clicking to unbook the trip. If I want to add a new flight to an itinerary for the consideration, I simply click the plus button up here. I can search by airline itinerary ID or enter the specifications for the specific city and dates that I wanted to travel with. So let's for now check out the itinerary ID search. So let's enter in a specific itinerary ID and click search. Now when we click search, you see an ID result for the itinerary that I entered. I can save it to my itinerary by clicking save here. Now you see the new itinerary is at the bottom. It has no preferences yet since we just added it. Next, we can explore the hotels panel right here. Over here, the hotel itineraries work exactly like the trips, in that you can book it, unbook it, and say your different preferences right here. Since we have showed you how it works for the flights, we won't go very much into how it works for the hotels, but it's the same general idea. Now, if we click the nav panel again, we can see the other tools that are relevant to the trip. Let's go see the members of the trip by clicking the members button here. Here you see all the members that are affiliated with this trip, along with some contact details. You have their phone number and their email address. Clicking on either of them, clicking on the phone number will allow you to actually call them on your phone, and clicking on the email will actually allow you to send an email straight from your phone. And there's you. If you want to invite a new member to the trip, you simply click the plus button here. You add their name, their phone number, and their email address if you want. So I'm going to invite this member. Okay? Alright, So the member has been invited and actually accepted our invitation, so they have been added to the trip. You see their default picture here is actually for Batman, but they can change it later on in other features of this and other features and installations of this app later on. Alright, let's go to the next feature, Calendar. Over here, you see a calendar that gives you different details of your actual trip. For instance, all of the different trips, flights, hotels, and deadlines that you have put on the trip show up just on the calendar, and a red dot indicates that there's some information for the trip on that date. For instance, if we click the dot for the 22nd, we see that we have flights on our itineraries booked for that day. And the same for the other days that are indicated red. Lastly, let's look at the deadlines panel. Here, you can actually give your different trip members a sense of urgency by giving them deadlines to do specific acts. For instance, let's look at one of the deadlines that's already been set, the head count deadline. Over here, you see the date that the deadline is for, who exactly in the group it's for, and a little bit of a description. If the maker of the deadline is satisfied and doesn't want the deadline anymore, they can simply delete it. You can add deadlines very easily by clicking the plus button. You give the deadline name, for instance, let's say, flight deadline, a date for the deadline, and who it's for. If you don't click any specific member, the deadline is actually assumed to belong to all members of the trip. So here we see our new deadline with the populated fields. And let's delete it for now. Alright, to simply go back to the home page, you click Trips Home, and it will show you all of your remaining trips. Alright, that's it for Rise. You can click the Log Out button right here to log out. And that's it. Thank you for listening to our demo.